It was a cool October morning in 1980 when a teenage boy, out for a walk in the Nevada desert, stumbled upon something that would haunt the community for decades. Lying face down in the sand, her body partially hidden by brush, was a young woman, her face beaten beyond recognition, her life violently stolen. She wore only a pair of red pants, her upper body bare, her identity erased. For more than 40 years, she would be known only as Arroyo Grande Jane Doe. But the dead, as it turns out, can still tell their stories. On October 5, 1980, in a lonely stretch of desert near Henderson, Nevada, police were called to a gruesome scene. A passerby had found the body of a teenage girl dumped in a ravine off Arroyo Grande Boulevard. The girl had been beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled. The desert sun had already begun to take its toll, making identification nearly impossible. Investigators believe she was between 14 and 18 years old. She had shoulder-length brown hair, brown eyes, and weighed about 105 pounds. Her fingernails were painted red, and her pants, bright red, were her most distinguishing feature. No identification, no missing persons report, no witnesses. The case began as a puzzle with every piece missing. The investigation hit a dead end almost immediately. Detectives canvassed nearby towns, truck stops, and motels. They checked missing teen databases from across the Southwest. It was as though this young woman had appeared out of thin air and vanished again into the desert wind. For decades, the Arroyo Grande Jane Doe case remained one of Nevada's most haunting mysteries. Each year that passed deepened the sense of tragedy. Police sketches were circulated, composites drawn and redrawn, but no one came forward. Families across the country wondered if she might be their missing daughter, but dental records and DNA ruled them out one by one. Her grave, marked only by a small headstone inscribed with the words, Arroyo Grande Jane Doe, in God's care, became a silent memorial to all the missing and forgotten girls whose names had been lost. But this story, Tammy's story, wasn't over. In the early 2000s, advances in DNA technology began reopening cold cases once thought unsolvable. Detectives exhumed Jane Doe's remains in hopes of extracting a DNA profile. The sample was sent to national databases, but still, no match. It would take another decade, and the rise of genetic genealogy, for her voice to finally be heard. In 2021, investigators partnered with Othram Inc., a forensic genealogy company that specializes in identifying unknown victims using advanced DNA tracing and public ancestry databases. By building a family tree and connecting distant relatives, genealogists finally identified her as Tammy Corrine Terrell, a 16-year-old girl from Roswell, New Mexico. 41 years after she was killed, Jane Doe finally had her name back. Tammy was born in 1964, a bright and hopeful girl growing up in Roswell. She had a soft voice, a shy smile, and dreams much bigger than the small desert town she called home. But like many teenagers, Tammy yearned for adventure and independence. In September 1980, she left home, likely with someone she trusted, and was never seen alive again. Her parents reported her missing, but with limited communication and few resources at the time, the search never connected her to the unidentified body found weeks later in Nevada. Once Tammy's identity was confirmed, the investigation shifted from who she was to who had taken her life. Detectives began re-examining old evidence, including tire tracks, witness statements, and forensic samples that had sat in storage for decades. A chilling detail emerged. Witnesses in 1980 had seen Tammy at a restaurant in Henderson the night before her body was found. She was reportedly with an older man, described as tall, in his mid-20s, driving a pickup truck. The two appeared to be arguing. That man was never identified. Investigators now believe Tammy may have been lured or coerced into traveling across state lines, possibly by someone she trusted. Once in Nevada, she became trapped in a situation that turned deadly. Even with modern tools, the identity of Tammy's killer remains a mystery. But DNA samples from her clothing and body are being reanalyzed with state-of-the-art technology, and police are hopeful that one day, a match will emerge. Tammy's story represents the growing power of forensic genealogy, a new weapon in the fight against time. The haunting part? Tammy's killer could still be alive. Her identification has inspired renewed focus on other unsolved Jane Doe cases in the Southwest, many of them teenage girls whose stories mirror Tammy's in eerie ways. Closure, even when it comes late, is still a form of justice. Tammy Terrell's story is one that lingers. It forces us to confront the unsettling truth that so many victims of violence remain unknown for years, buried with secrets they never got to tell. But thanks to science and the relentless determination of investigators, those secrets are beginning to speak. In the quiet Nevada desert, where the wind still sweeps over the spot where she was found, Tammy's story has transformed from a cold case into a symbol of hope. She may have been silenced in 1980, but in 2021, her voice finally returned. Her name is Tammy Corrine Terrell, and she was never forgotten.